The future ain't what it used to be. The great Yogi Berra, I think a lot of us maybe have felt that way. It's been a rough couple of years. But I'm here to tell you that your future is going to be amazing. And I'm going to show you how you can use math to get a better feeling for how fast some of the changes will happen. And it'll help you to make good predictions for yourself so you can make good decisions about your future. Imagine my daughter comes up to me and says, "Dad, we've been doing this science experiment at school about growth. I'd like to do our allowance differently. I'd like you to give me just a penny in the first week of this next year. Just a penny in the first week, and then 2 pennies in the next week, and then 4 pennies, and then 8 pennies. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, isn't that sweet? Somebody has taught my daughter about exponential growth. But the poor thing, she started with a penny. So it can't add up fast enough to, by the end of the year, really be a lot of money with that exponential growth. And so I start doing the math, and you get out to 10 weeks, and you're only at $5, $5.12. And I think, yeah, I'm probably pretty safe. I'd like you to think about, by the end of that year, how much would that grow to? I know there's probably somebody out there thinking, come on to you, sneaky math teacher. It's going to be a lot. And so I'm going to take my guess, and I'm going to times it by 10. You better times it by 10 again, because it's actually $20 trillion. And that's just in the last week. So we are pretty bad at exponential growth. We tend to think in a linear manner. In fact, there's studies right now that are going on trying to understand what is it about human beings that we have to think in a linear manner. And it causes us to miss out on some things in life. Next, let's talk about another type of curve. And this one is called the basic logistic curve. Now, this is what is used when you're going to max out at 100%. So let's take, for instance, electric cars. You might know that 2 to 3% of the market right now is electric vehicles here in the United States. And you might be thinking, how fast is that going to grow? I mean, it's still like 97% gas cars. Well, at some point, it'll probably reach 100% of cars will be will be electric cars. And the key moments will be when it hits 10%. At 10%, it's going to take off and go in an exponential manner. But then, of course, once it hits about 80%, it's going to slow down because the people that were most excited about an electric car already have one. And so as a percent of new sales, when it hits 80%, it's going to tail off. And this S curve, also called a sigmoid graph, or the basic logistic curve, is going to be important. So remember the 10%, and remember the 80%. The flush toilet, thank you, Sir Thomas Crapper. Actually true. He didn't invent the flush toilet, but he invented one of the most popular ones. And we went from, in the United States, in 1880, having only 10% of the people had a flush toilet. But you can imagine the keeping up with the Joneses, like, the neighbors just got a flush toilet. Maybe we should get a flush toilet. And eventually, it got up to 80%. But it took 75 years to get to 80% market share. And it's still not at 100%. Cell phones, it only took 15 years to get from 10% to 80%. And I hope you notice the big difference there. It's sped up a lot. Electric vehicles, you may be thinking, again, 2-3% in the United States. Let's look at Norway. They're a little bit ahead of us in the adoption of electric vehicles. And this year, they went through 80% and hit 85% just in 2021. And they grew a lot between 2014 and 2021. So it only took 7 years to have occasionally seeing an electric car to having it be almost all the new cars being sold. So when that hits it in the United States, I'm going to make the bold prediction that once it hits 10% in the United States, I think it's going to go faster than it did in Norway. I think that we're going to see between 10% of new vehicles sold to 80%. I think it'll only take about 5.5 years, and people are going to be shocked by that. But each year we move into the future, those adoptions go faster. I want to talk about AI and robotics. They're just starting their S-curves. And a lot of you guys have little robots. I bet right now, at least one of you has a robot that is running around your house and sweeping up the floors, called a Roomba. And there's other brands out there. And I know that you're going to find more and more robots in your life doing little tasks that you really would rather not do. I have a neighbor who's got a really cool robotic lawnmower. It's just constantly out there mowing the lawn, and then it goes back to be charged at night. The electric vehicles, oh, I went the wrong way, I'm sorry. The most powerful changes that we have are when two trends converge. And so when you take a lot of information and you put it together with computers, all of a sudden we saw the internet. And that, if you hadn't noticed, has changed everybody's life. Another big one was when computers got together with the old flip phone, and all of a sudden we had smartphones. And now we're up to about 90-something% adoption on smartphones. And almost everybody's using them. In fact, we're all worried about how we're using them too much. But the next big one that I think is going to happen over the next 25 years is when robotics gets together with AI. If you haven't had a chance to see the robots dancing yet, you should go and watch the Boston Dynamics robots dancing. That's all you need to Google, and the clip will come up, and it's amazing what they can already do. But when you put in AI, that's going to be the merging of two trends, and it's going to totally change our world. So where will those bots be used first? The one that you may see on my shirt here is one that Tesla has just announced. Last month, they announced that they're going to have their first prototype within 1 year, which probably means 2 years from now, you'll see an amazing sight. It's standing about 5'8", and looking a lot like a human. These robots will probably first be used for dangerous missions, one of which would be going to space. Because of the fact that Tesla is owned by basically the same folks who own SpaceX, I think you're going to see robots going to space very soon after they're created. There's a window of about every 2 years where you can go to Mars, and it's not going to happen just 2 years after they're invented, but before we hit 2030, I'm absolutely certain that there are going to be robots that will be heading up to the moon or to Mars bases. Think about it, they're perfect. They don't complain about being squished in with all the other humans. No, wait, all the other robots. They don't complain about the food. They're able to survive without any food or oxygen. They just need solar panels. They could probably set those up themselves. On a different note, companionship. I think you're going to see people who really get attached to their robots. And I think you're going to find, if people like me have a hard time saying goodbye to my car after being with it for, let's say, 7 years, I think you're going to find that people will be attached to this robot that they've talked to and who might have helped take care of their kids. And I think you're going to see robots have an interesting chance to have a relationship with human beings. So, in the next 25 years, I'm going to make some predictions of what you may see from the trends that I've researched. I'm going to say that 25 years from now, imagine yourself waking up in the morning, and you just had the best night of sleep in your life. And it was because the AI has been coaching you, has been able to keep track of your movements during your sleep with your smartwatch, and has been able to give you some tips on how to get better sleep. It also wakes you up at just the right moment because it knows when you need to get up in the morning. And it also knows when your REM sleep cycles have just finished up. So you've just woken up with amazing night's sleep. You notice that a few of your household robots have been doing their tasks. Your robotic lawnmower is out mowing the lawn, and your dishes have been done. Your clothes have been washed. You hop in the car on the way to work, but you don't hop in the front seat of the car. You hop in the back seat of your car because your car can drive itself. There's already robo-taxis on the road right now. Waymo is one of the companies that's offering robo-taxi rides. Tesla has just released their full self-driving beta, and so people are starting to see that it's coming, and it's coming soon. So you ride in the back seat of your car as your car brings you to work. You're able to get a little nap in, maybe, or maybe you get a little last-minute work done, and you've made it to work. And instead of just parking your car or having the car park itself, which it could, you send it out because it can earn some money during the day as a robotaxi, taking other people to work, or maybe it's taking people to the airport or back home from the airport. Now you're going to go on with your day. You've made it to work. I'm going to say it from a teacher's perspective. I know that we're going to have AIs that are going to help us give our assignments to kids, and they're going to be perfect. They're not going to be too hard. They're not going to be too easy. They're going to be just right. And I think we all know that learning is the most fun when it's at just the right level. And the AI will know who needs what in their homework. Now, if you're not lucky enough to be a teacher then, if you're going to be working in another job, I just am confident that you're going to be working with an AI, and that AI will be able to do far more work and not get tired, not need a coffee break. And you'll be supervising AIs in your job, and maybe robots. During the day, you get an email that says, "Congratulations, the tests that we did, the doctor did, came back negative. Turns out you do not have cancer. And the robo-toilet that notified us that you had some precancerous cells and we needed to check you out, you ought to keep paying attention to that, because we just had somebody this week where we caught their cancer 3 years earlier than we would have, because it sent us a message like that." So you end your workday, your car is back to pick you up, and you jump in the back seat. Maybe you learn a little bit of Mandarin because you're going to go to China next month. And when you do, you'll probably be taking an electric plane, because did you know that it costs $440,000 to fill the gas tank on a plane that is going to go across continents? And when we've got batteries that are able to handle that, they're not there yet, but they're coming. We're just really close to having the battery density necessary to be able to have large electric planes that can fly you from place to place. Besides, they won't be burning all of those fossil fuels as they go across the ocean. One of the nice things that you'll have going for you on the trip is you'll be able to have your AI, like Siri or your Google Assistant, book the tickets for you, because you'll be able to tell it, okay, if the price ever gets below this, go ahead and book the tickets, and it'll be able to just take care of it for you. Now you've made it home from work, and it's time to pack up for your little weekend trip that you're going to take. You wanted to go to Glacier National Park, and so you've packed your car, put everything in there, you have loaded it up, put your robot dog in the back, but you don't get in your car. You send your car ahead. It's about 1,000 miles from here to Glacier National Park, and you'll fly out, and your car will drive out separate. And then your car can pick you up at the airport. That way you can drive your own car when you get there. You won't have to rent one, and it'll be the car you're used to driving. The cars, when they do drive themselves, will probably by then be 10 times better than the average human driver. They don't get distracted. They don't text people. So I think that the trip that you're going to fly out and meet your car, that's going to probably go up into the mountains where there still will be grizzly bears. And you'll be happy to know that your robot dog will be able to kind of keep an eye on the campsite and bark for you if anything comes into your camp. I'll give you a little heads up. The coolest stuff is stuff that nobody has even thought of. Everything I've mentioned before, people have already, either that they are already in existence or people have already talked about them. But I thought, I want you to think up some things that could be really cool in the future. And I'll give you my example. We can train drones to kill mosquitoes. They've already had drones that, when equipped with lasers can shoot mosquitoes out of the sky, and they've been able to do that for 10 years already. But we haven't been able to actually pull it off because it's too expensive. But drones, all they have to do is fly up next to the mosquito, fly up underneath it, and touch it with their little spinning propeller, and the mosquito's toast. And if that makes some of you feel bad, mosquitoes in Minnesota are an invasive species. It's okay to not like the mosquitoes. So, if you're thinking, oh, that's kind of sad, that's a first world problem, you don't want to be bit in your backyard, what about if we think worldwide? Did you know that there are every 2 minutes that a child dies from malaria? So during this speech, quite a few children have died from malaria, which is from mosquitoes. So if we can't invent something to cut down that number of deaths with some of this amazing technology, then I think that'd be pretty sad. The best things are things that you're going to think of. This probably won't exist. If somebody in the audience is inspired by this and decides to start up a company based on this idea, all I would ask is for $1 in the first month, $2 in the second month, $4 in the third month. So now that you know a little bit about exponentials and S-curves and basic logistic curves, what can you do about it? One thing you can do is invest. I hope you will be the type of person who doesn't get discouraged by the fact that your investments at $400 a month into your Roth IRA have only grown to about $23,000 after 4 years, but you know that exponential growth just explodes if you give it enough time. And that $400 a month will end up being $2.3 million if you give it 44 years. And that $400 a month, where are you going to get that? My daughter earned that much just babysitting people's dogs and cats while they went on vacation per month. Watch for trends that are hitting 10%. If you take a look at technologies that are starting to be adopted, once they hit 10%, you'll see that they grow really fast from there up to 80%. And so you can use that if you're young to help decide which career you may want to be in. And if you're older, you may be able to help decide what to invest in with your personal investments, because these trends are going to catch people by surprise. We talked about a lot of things that are not going to change. A lot of things that are going to change. How about something that's not going to change? I encourage you to invest in relationships. Most of you, as I see in the audience, are here with somebody, and those relationships and your faith and your friends and your family are going to become more and more important to you over the next 25 years. No matter what stage of life you're in, they're going to be more and more important, so invest there. You may have a robot that you enjoy and you even have a simple relationship with, but that can't replace your friends and your family. So invest time there. The best way to predict the future is to create it. That's attributed to Abraham Lincoln. And I hope that you can see that you have an amazing future. I hope you can see that you have some tools in math that'll help you to get a feeling for what's coming next. And I hope you can see that my time is done but your time has just begun.